pilot on this great session called High Tech, High Touch. That's right. Don't rely on the email, the SMS, the letter to do the work. Making those conversations are like doing the push-ups. You can't outsource it to some bit of technology, right? So, David, pretty excited today because by coincidence, my presentation on high tech, high touch actually brings Agent Box into the center. It's the actual hub that actually makes it all work seamlessly.
Yeah, spot on. This is always a great topic because there's lots and lots of technology out there. People often get quite overwhelmed with the options that are available. And ultimately, the CRM sits at the middle of all of that. So you might be using the CRM for your email or your SMS or logging all your calls, doing all that kind of stuff. But there's lots of other great tools out there as well. And having a good CRM at the center is really that foundation to make this high-tech, high-touch idea work.
Okay. So what I was going to do, David, is I was going to draw a model on the screen for people to understand the technology options at the moment that help an agent be more efficient with their work. Now, David, back in 1989, I was working at an office called Chambers Fleming, the Professionals, Padstow.
Yes.
Who, by the way, have told me they're following my advice and they are taking Agent Box on in the next few weeks.
They are coming across. They're one of the top professionals offices, and they've got some really, really good performers in there. So I'm excited to get them on board.
Yes, I was there. It's funny, it just came to my mind. I was there last Monday, and Dean and Todd told me that they're making the shift. Well, we better not talk about where they're making the shift, because then people are going to say, Tommy's being a bad boy and saying people are leaving there and coming there. But I know that they're making a shift from another CRM system. And can I give you something interesting, David? Do you know that that office for 3 decades has essentially been a total dominator in its marketplace? 3 decades. It's quite incredible. But what I want to do in this session is just draw out to people, what is it that people are doing in technology at the moment to actually help them get more listings, make more sales, get more appraisals, build their personal brand? Because back in 1990, the way we used technology was John Ausnet. I still remember the day, that's the father of the sons, came in and he said, hey, everyone, I've got good news. He plonks this fax machine on the table. I was 20, 21 years of age, right? He says, from now on, we're not going to fold the letter up, and we're not going to put it in an envelope, and we're not going to put a stamp on it, and we're not going to go to the post office and send it and wait to see what the other solicitor writes back. We're not going to do that. And it was like magic. He got this piece of paper and he said, have a look. See this? And he put it into the machine and he goes, in 1 minute, that's going to go all the way to a solicitor's office, right? That was the first bit of technology for me that I, jumped on. But, it's 2021. So we've gone past the fax machine. So what I thought I would do is draw up here on the screen some of the things that I think agents can be using to actually help them in that regard. So let's actually call this the model Digital Agent 3.0. And let's go off and look at what are the things that agents are using in the world of the modern agent. Firstly, we simply know, so in the center, look, in the center, I'm actually going to put Agent Box.
Good choice. I like it.
You like that, don't you, Dave? You're biased. You're the head of sales there. Agent Box. And then here, I'm going to put down reviews, whether you're using REA, Google, Rate My Agent, Facebook. We simply know that reviews are the modern agent's recommendation on steroids. particularly if you don't have a relationship with that client. Now, if you've been a good boy or girl, you've been talking to them on Agent Box. And what means is you've got trust in the relationship because you would have been jabbing away, and frequency builds trust.
Social proof is good. It's all about social proof.
Correct. Then we've got the next one, which is the, let's call the next one, let's call it these new, I'm not going to sit there. I mean, I obviously like the one that Real Hub have, and that is pre-list or pitch documents that you use at the pitch, or price updates. So let's call it electronic price updates.
Yep. Digital proposals.
Pitch,
there's there's Proposal Point, which is a great product. There's Real Hubs ones. There's lots of these coming out. And if you aren't doing your proposals digitally at the moment, I guarantee you other people in the market are. So definitely something people want to be on.
Okay. Then we move on to the next one, which is electronic signatures. Again, we're not going to sit there and talk about the different brands, but there's a lot of them there. And the good thing here, David, is electronic signatures are saving agents so much time, and they're getting deals done when emotions are really high. They send the document, just okay it and send it back to us.
Yep, that's it. And especially like these came into their own with COVID, and you weren't able to get to see people. Agents were getting deals done with it because they could do it this way.
Then we move on to the next, and I'm going to call this one Secure Exchange, because it's in a bit of a category by itself. And I know that Agent Box has recently done an integration and are doing an integration as we speak. And Secure Exchange is allowing you to order a contract pretty much at the time that you're at the listing presentation. So you're really shortening the period of getting the paperwork needed to actually list and sell a property really, really quickly, And then we move on, and I then start talking about some of the other strategies that agents are using, like live streams. This is where you simply pull out a mobile phone and you basically are doing like, I have a buyer left over from a property I've sold, or this is my market wrap, or this is a live stream auction. And I have to say to you, if you aren't on the live stream train, get on it, because you're leaving money on the table. So 10 days ago, David, you've seen the auction I did. It is now at 4 million views. 4 million views.
It was on the Daily Telegraph. It came up on my Facebook page. They did a story on it as well. It's going everywhere. I've watched it. Nuts.
So listen to what happens. I'm there. I go to this young girl that was at there. I said, do you mind streaming this auction, just holding my phone? Hand the iPhone. They streamed the auction. That was it. There was no videographers. There was no photographers, no lighting, no mics, bang. And I've got to tell you, I have got message after message for people to want to list and sell their house. So it makes, and I'm not an agent, but it makes me realize, David, how many people you're missing if you're not on the channel there of live streaming what you're doing. So then we move on to the next one. The next one I'm going to call artificial intelligence. Example, Rita. Is Rita integrated with you guys? They are.
Very, very tightly. Rita works really, really well with Agent Box. Really support what they do there. Yep.
Okay. So for those that don't understand how artificial intelligence works in real estate, just picture it as being Google. And what it does is Google Maps. Actually, Google Maps is a better metaphor. So what it does is it goes into Agent Box and it actually says, these are probably the 20 best calls that you can make today. You could probably make 3,000 calls, but these are probably the 20 best, because what it's doing is it's skimming Agent Box, and then it's looking at realestate.com. It's looking at CoreLogic RP data. So it's helping you work with your just listed, just sold, anniversary calls, and it takes the thinking about who to call. But guess what? You still make the calls. You make the calls. Now, I know that you're going to talk about it in a moment, because there's a few agents that have decided that what they want to do is they totally want to outsource the whole communication piece electronically. And I know you have a strong view on that, and we're going to talk about that in a second.
Absolutely, yep.
Then you've got things like, before you bid. Before you bid. This is making the consumer experience of getting pest and building reports a lot easier. And it's helping real estate agents, quite frankly, not spending their time running back and forward at pest and building inspections, which is not dollar productive. Listing, selling, negotiating, and prospecting is. So instead of you running out of pest and building inspections, 5 times during a campaign, this is time that you can have spent on dollar productivity. And in addition to that, David, the other good thing about having inspections as you list the property, it is useful to know, are there any issues? So you can actually talk those issues through in your narrative, not the inspector's narrative.
Last thing you want is to get to what you think is a great price, and then the inspection turns out an issue that you hadn't prepared for, and you get all excited, you're about to pop the champagne. No worse a feeling. Know it up front, deal with it, be open, be transparent.
Correct. Then what we've got here is things like VPA campaign, which is, let's call it vendor funding. These are tech tools that allow you to advertise now, pay later. Great tools because they take the friction away from vendor paid advertising. And this morning we had a large group of people on a realestate.com event that we had, which was on VPA. And everyone knows that agents hate sitting at a listing presentation and saying, oh, by the way, can you please open up your wallet and give me that money? I need it now. We don't want you to be debt collectors. We want you to be out there doing deals and marketing real estate, not being accounts payable. And then, of course, one of my most favorite platforms, StreamYard, because, David, it allows you to go live on Facebook, personal, business. It allows you to go to YouTube, Periscope, which is Twitter, allows you to go to LinkedIn. So the one piece of content being shot off to 5 different platforms, and get ready for it, you can see the comments of each platform going in. And that works out to being about $20. StreamYard's one example, right? I'm sure there are others, so I'm not spending this time, product promoting. But guys and girls, take a snapshot of that model there, because I think if you're doing this stuff, you're well on the path of being a digital agent first in your marketplace. But David, Agent Box is the hub, the epicenter that brings this all together.
Yeah, totally. Like if you get like before you bid, for example, that happens directly after an open for inspection. They're being alerted of that, hey, download the report. That gets fed back in. Reader pulls out data. Secure Exchange, as you said, we're integrating with. Reviews can be put into video, into emails within the system and things as well. It all comes there because ultimately that's where you want to have your neat, tidy, clean database that you are nurturing and building your relationships with. They've all got to connect into a central place, and that should be your CRM, and in this case, Agent Box.
Now, David, you spoke to me off camera before, and you raised 2 issues. And I want you to do a bit of a deep dive and, talk them through, because I thought they were extremely valuable. One, particularly very practical, and one is philosophical. You need to get this mindset. So let's start off with the practical one.
But yeah, practical one's a good place to start. And this is the little secret recycling digital strategy, digital marketing strategy that not just real estate agents are using, but entire businesses are using. And it is the concept of retargeting. And some people might already be familiar with it, some people will not be. But I'll give you a little bit of a story. At the moment, in the old world, an inquiry comes in, you respond to it, that's it. And hopefully you're a good enough agent to follow them up. What can happen now is an inquiry comes in, it gets automatically captured into the system. They automatically get created buying requirements, and the system automatically sends them emails with similar properties. At the same token, at the same time, the inquiry is coming in and they're getting an auto response with a link to a digital brochure. And within that brochure is the company's Facebook and Google pixels. And what that is, it sits behind that piece of technology, and it says that this particular person is interested in your company. They've had an interaction with you. And what that does is if you're then promoting yourself on Facebook, it will then link those things together and your ads will start appearing. Now, if people are a little bit confused, think about all of those times you've been onto a website, you've been onto David Jones or Woolworths or car insurance, and then suddenly all your ads pop up in front of you. That's exactly what's happening, but you're doing it automatically. They're not waiting for you to go to the website. As they're inquiring on properties, you're sending something back to them so they interact, and then suddenly all of your social media marketing is being retargeted to those people there. It's a really, really simple and effective strategy. And if that's then followed up with sending them emails, and those emails have properties in them, and the clients then click on those properties, they go to your website, and the same thing happens, suddenly all this social media stuff is coming up in front of them. And it might be your paid advertising, but like you were saying, Tom, it could be those videos as well, because this content is going viral. It's being shared and liked, and oh, you had an interaction with that business. Facebook's going to say, I'm going to put this in front of you. So that's how you start to build this kind of mass recycling ecosystem of digital marketing. And there's plenty of companies out there that can do it. You can even do it yourself. Talk to your web providers. Absolutely, they can help you set that kind of thing up.
Yeah. So, David, as you're speaking, I've got a distinct example. I'm in Terrigal some time ago. My daughter says to me on the beach, Daddy, have a look at that towel. I look across and someone's got this towel, and they get up and there's no sand on the towel. It's called a tessellate towel.
They fill me with social media stuff. They've got a great strategy around that.
So just picture what happened here, David. I go on to the Tessellate website and I have a look. So I've seen the towel. I go onto the Tessellate website. While I'm on the Tessellate website, I say to my daughter, is this it? She goes, yes. She goes, look at how many colors there is. And look, they're beautiful. And I look at the price. They're about $80 each, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, I get off. I'm on Facebook. Within moments, I don't know how quickly they did that, but I get an offer and it says, buy two, get a third free. Deal ends midnight. My daughter freaks out. Oh, Daddy, do it now. What a coincidence. Bang. And then we're short a towel because there's 4 in my family. So what happens is I've got to go in and buy another one. So I spent around $400, right, in 5 minutes because of this ecosystem of stimulus, response, sale.
Spot on. And the amazing thing about real estate is, though, that in your case, you needed to go to the website. You had to go there first. With real estate, because they're inquiring to us first, all we need to do is send them something back that they're asking for in the form, in this case, a digital proposal or a digital listing presentation, something like that, which is going to allow those Facebook pixels, those Google pixels behind it, and then they'll start following you around. It's a really simple strategy, but it will be absolutely gold to help you get your brand out to your local market.
Now, David, let's move on to number 2. And number two is dear to my heart. The second observation that you've made about this technology era that we've moved into, right? And you use the term the paradox of technology.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm sorry, I might turn into my own rant here because I get a bit passionate about these kind of things. And what I've noticed recently with technology is that if we go back to the old days, you were talking about the fax. Let's go back then when you had the card boxes, right? And your card box might have been, what, 100 cards? And, that was your database. You could only service that many people. Nowadays, we've got bigger targets, bigger expectations, and now we're servicing thousands of people with the use of technology. And that's great. It's allowing us to achieve all of these amazing things. What I've found that's happening, though, is now that we're getting alternate ways to build relationships with people, and that could be through social media, through emails, not just through your calls and SMS. There's all these ways that you're building relationships with people. You use the example of Rita or one of these AI platforms. What they're now doing is they're going out and generating opportunities for you, telling you who to call or saying, this is a possible appraisal. And what I've found is that people are then, these systems are saying, hey, you should call this person, or here's an opportunity for you. And then the people aren't making the calls. And this is where I find this paradox happens, which is technology is creating all of these relationships, but then we're not actually taking action on them because they're being built in a different way. We're not necessarily seeing the value in that as well. So as much as there's these great technology pieces out there and they're telling you to make these calls and get these deals, ultimately it's going to come down to you picking up the phone, making that call, and using the information that technology has provided to you in to actually close that particular deal.
Yeah, well said. Well said. And anyone that's watching this, trust me, if real estate was about sending emails and SMSs, you can pretty much say your role becomes redundant because they can get it done cheaper instead of you doing it, right? If that was real estate was all about. If real estate was about doing letterbox drops, making SMSs and sending emails, you've basically become unemployed in real estate, right? You can get robots to do that sort of work, right? But the good news is that influence doesn't happen unless you've got emotional contagion. And even Zoom doesn't have the emotional contagion of face-to-face. But what we clearly know is face-to-face, belly-to-belly, the best. Second best thing is a phone. It's actually the number one piece of technology in sales for decades, right? The phone allowed you to reach more people in less time, which was very good because up until then, David, in the old sales world, people would park their car and walk in and just sell, door knock businesses or door knock houses.
I'll tell you who I've seen, the agents that are doing absolute best in this space is, as you said, it's about building relationships. You've got to build a relationship. What technology provides agents to be able to do is build a relationship with all of these people initially before they've even made contact. And I mentioned this to you off camera, Tom, that I get a great interpretation of who you are as a person because you put your personality into your social media. And I see that in your posts, in the way you communicate on Facebook, in various emails that you send. Everything actually forms that relationship. So what's happening is, if I was a buyer for you or I was a potential vendor for you, I'm already kind of liking what you're doing. And that happened, right? We saw that this week with people saying, I want to sell with you. I love your personality. The interesting thing is, you haven't done necessarily anything to build the relationship with me yourself. It's all happened through these other streams, the Facebooks and the emails and that kind of stuff. So the best agents are utilizing these technologies to help build those relationships. Technology is then saying, hey, you need to call this person. And then what they're doing is then they're coming in, they're making that call, they're following up that person. And guess what? That person's already partly sold because they know who you are. They've got a gist of your personality. What you've just got to do is come that other 50% much, much quicker. And if you do that, that's where the agents are being really successful. Use the technology, get your personality out there, sync that into everyone. And then when it's time to make that call, you've just got to expedite your part of the process, your part where you've got to pick up the phone and call them and build that personal rapport really quickly.
And I think, David, like, I do get it. I do get it that some people say, but you know what? What if you come across that they don't like you, online? Well, I've got to tell you, that's part of the qualification process. Not everyone was going to go with you. So there's a very, very good chance that you've worked out the tribe that's got your vibe. And you don't need everyone, right? You don't need everyone. And the second thing, I'm going to add this before we go, David, a lot of people say to me, hey, I get all of this, but I'm just not ready. I don't know how to do it, or I'm too fat, or I'm too skinny, or this, or I'm too old, too young to sort of do this. I have to say, if you are too focused on yourself, which is a little bit self-centered, think of yourself as being a person that's giving a message to help other people. Don't get focused about what I look like in building a video first brand, right? Focus on the people you serve, and then you won't worry too much. Oh, I look like this, or I look like that. But what's coming out of this conversation is this. You're going to use the technology, and in many instances, it's going to make you efficient, more effective. And it's also going to give you the opportunity to actually call and speak to the right people at the right time. But it's still going to require human. It's going to still require high touch. And that's why we actually called this session by Agent Box high tech, high touch. Now, it would not be a David Bliss, Tom Panos, Agent Box webinar unless we did our call to action, which is, if at the moment your system is not allowing you to actually have these things seamlessly into your business, and that you're running a process-driven operation and your world is in chaos because you're trying to do everything, agentbox.com.au.
Totally. And in the theme of this, I hope that through this presentation, I guess, people have gotten a little bit of a vibe for who I am and ultimately who the sales team is and how we approach our consumers. We want to, as much as we've got all this technology and stuff around it, we want to sit down with you. We want to have a conversation, and hopefully our vibe is part of your tribe, and that can come across, and we're going to work together for you. So yeah.
David, as you're talking about this, about people knowing all about you before they physically meet you, I have to tell you, I simply can't remember the last time I had a meeting where someone's trying to buy a product or service off me, and I've sat down there and said, let me tell you a little bit about me. Let me tell you a little bit about my background. There's none of that. The conversation is they ring up, mate, we've got a conference or we need training for this. And I say, mate, the date I can do is this date. This is what the deal is. It's not like, do you know what I mean? It's like the CV has been done in the video work and all the touch points before. Yeah.
Well, here you go. Like you were talking about reviews earlier. So I've seen your video, Tom. I get what you're saying. And I've seen some of the great options that you've been doing. And then I go on and I see these reviews, and the reviews say, oh, I'm the vendor, and this particular agent did all of these great things and was very kind and caring. And then what that does is, well, hold on, I've seen that kind and caring Tom in the videos, and then now I've seen it in the reviews of the people. And it starts to build this narrative. So people start to get to know who you are. We talk about the digital interview and these kind of things beforehand. And I think agents need to understand that people already will have that concept of who you are and vibe, and that's probably already factored into their decision. The challenge that the agents haven't cottoned onto yet is they then need to expedite their past, because they're used to building relationships over weeks and months of calls. And now it's like, well, hold on, that's already been done behind the scenes. I've just got to make a couple of calls and reinforce what these guys already know. And exactly as you said, means it's a conversation of saying, when, how are we going to do this? Not, please sign with me.
And I'm also proud to let you know that Eddie tells me that you and Eddie were one of the first people in Australia to go overseas when the bubble opened. I believe that you and Eddie went to New Zealand on the first day that the bubble between Australia and New Zealand opened. May I ask you, as someone that was going to New Zealand every month for years and I haven't been there, what's the experience like? Is it straightforward? Do Aussies get treated differently in the process?
The most surprising aspect was I checked in at a hotel and they actually seemed pleased to see an Australian. I think most of them are sick of us coming over there, but this time they were like, oh, Australians, great. It was actually exciting, but very, very seamless experience. Literally walk in, sign a bit of paper, walk out. I get some updates just like I do from the New South Wales if I've been near areas that potentially have COVID cases. I would encourage everyone to get back out there, start traveling, especially between the two.
Was the masks on the plane?
Masks on the plane, wearing a mask for 4 hours was a little uncomfortable, but a very small price to pay. As I said, we've been doing all of these tech relationships for the last year or so with a number of clients over there. And this gave us the opportunity to say, well, let's put all that aside. Let's go back, get face to face, start building that relationship again.
Okay, guys and girls, Tom Panos, David Bliss, the Agent Box monthly webinar. And remember, technology is not there to substitute you. It's there to complement you. And right now, there's a digital interview happening on you as we speak. You might not be participating, but they're clicking. They're on the computer and they're checking you out. And I'm letting you know, if you want to win business in 2021, make sure that they are pre-sold before they meet you. Guys and girls, signing off. David, see you next month.
Thanks, Tom. Catch you later.